Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen neighbor is running a business under my bedroom. After that, am I the jerk for being ungrateful of the cake my boyfriend made me? And after that, am I the jerk for giving the PS5 my husband bought to my nephew? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets her business shut down. You leave my essential oils out of this, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen neighbor is running a business under my bedroom. My husband and I live in an upstairs 3-bedroom flat, and the flat below us is the same layout. The house has been for sale for a while, and recently a woman bought it. It turns out she doesn't have any kids, so I found it strange she bought a 3-bedroom house, but I soon found out it's because she runs a craft business from her home and needs 2 bedrooms to run it. The problem is, unfortunately, she has decided to use the main bedroom, which is below us, as her main craft room. At first, it was fine, as she hadn't fully moved in, but now it's driving me crazy. She's in that room almost all day, and I can hear her walking about and the faint noise of machines. I don't spend long in my bedroom during the day, but when I do go in it, it just annoys me, knowing that she's down there constantly. Like, why can't she have picked the smaller bedrooms since she knows the kids are at school all day? She always stops using her embroidery and sewing machines by 7 p.m., but she's told me she can sit up until 10 p.m. some nights finishing off orders, which plays on my mind. I go to bed at 9 p.m., and I can't sleep for hours as I lie there listening for her every move. Just knowing she's awake and walking about drives me crazy, as I find it so selfish someone would buy a flat and work from home. My husband says he can barely hear a thing during the day, and I need to calm down. He also doesn't see the big deal about her using her house as she pleases. Yesterday, I finally had enough and went to her door. I told her how I was feeling about everything and how I can hear the faint noise of her machines. She apologized and invited me inside to show me her setup. All her machines are on some sort of an anti-vibration padding to stop as much noise as possible, so she claims the noise should be minimal and that you need to expect some noise from neighbors. I told her I don't make any noise, and that's when things took a turn, as she said she can hear my kids running around and jumping off furniture all evening, but she would never dream of complaining because it's just one of those things when you share a building with other people. I left before I said anything else I regretted, and I thought that was the end of it. But today, my husband came home from working overnight and asked if I had said anything to the lady downstairs, as she was very cold and blunt with him when he said hello. I told him what happened, and he said I'm a massive jerk. I've spoken to a couple of my friends who think I've handled this completely wrong, and I'm a bit of a jerk for it, but I don't see what else I could have done. You're the jerk. I find it so selfish that someone would buy a flat and work from home? What? She can do whatever she wants in her own home. Or would you rather she sat there in silence on the dole? Can we also acknowledge that OP doesn't even like the idea that the neighbor is awake and using their flat? I'm sorry, what? OP, if you have issues with the mere thought of people living in the space they pay for, maybe you should save up for a single-family home so that you aren't disturbed by people being alive around you. You're the jerk. Yes, a single, childless woman can buy as big of a house as she pleases. Yes, she can use the rooms however she wants, within the confines of any HOA rules and the law. Yes, your kids probably make far more noise than her machines. Have you considered getting anti-vibration padding for them? Yes, you have too much time on your hands if you're constantly obsessing about her crafting. You need to go downstairs and apologize to her, then ask for tips on picking up a hobby. You definitely need one, and she sounds like an expert. Not the jerk. Do you have an HOA or anyone you can report her to? As much as people talk crap about HOAs, when you know how to use them, they can really come in handy. Annoying neighbor mowing his lawn all hours of the day? Reported. Neighbors hoarding ugly broken down cars in their backyard? Reported. I know flats may be different, but I really hope you can report her to someone. Maybe try giving the management office a call. Also, I highly doubt she has the proper licensing to be running a business like this, so there are authorities to report that to as well. Chances are she isn't paying taxes properly either, so a call to the taxing authority might be a good idea. Does she have a business Facebook page you can get on to express your concerns? That's the thing about Facebook business pages. They are a great way to get back at someone. Trust me, I've wreaked havoc on more than a few myself. Ultimately, can people do whatever they want in their house? Sure. But once you're affecting my quality of life, it's time to make you regret it. And don't bother calling me a Karen. My name is Sharon, but I can definitely be a Karen when I need to.
Bruh, these Karens be trippin' though.
Her name's Sharon, not Karen.
Is there really a difference?
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her neighbor downstairs? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for being ungrateful of the cake my boyfriend made me? I, 33 female, have been dating a man, Alex, 34 male, for almost 3 years. Alex has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous marriage that he has full custody of. When we met, Alex was doing very well. He made 6 figures, and he had a decent house in a fine neighborhood. I had a slightly lower paying job. Almost a year and a half ago, his job had to cut some employees, and he was one of them. He had to take on a job, and he earned much less than he had before. I moved into their house 5 months ago. Since I moved in, I've helped with a lot of the bills, usually half or more of them. Yesterday was my birthday. I wanted to celebrate at a nice restaurant near us. However, it was closed. There was another one a little closer to us, although it was more expensive. I suggested going there for my birthday to Alex, and he said that he couldn't afford to pay for dinner there, and if we went, we would need to split the bill. I was a little upset, but he said he would make something himself. The cake I wanted was, admittedly, somewhat expensive. I pointed it out to him, and he said again that he didn't think he could afford it with Christmas coming up, and we'd have to go half. I told him I wasn't paying for a cake for my own birthday, and he said he'd see what he could do. Well, yesterday came. He made dinner, and it was quite good, better than most meals we eat, although not as good as what it would have been at a restaurant. However, when he brought the cake out, it was just something he had made himself. He said he was sorry he couldn't afford the nicer cake, but he had made this one, and his daughter had helped. I pretended to enjoy it, but after, I told him that I was hoping for a slightly nicer cake. He said he had tried his best, and he couldn't spend the money he had set aside for bills on a cake. I guess his daughter heard, because now he's also saying that I made her upset after she helped make it. He keeps saying I should apologize to her and say that I really liked it. Am I the jerk?
Bruh.
You're the jerk. Wow, you sound conceited and unappreciative of what you have. I would consider a homemade cake and meal much more of a heartfelt birthday gift than someone spending over $200 on me at dinner. You lucked out with this guy, but be careful because it sounds like you don't realize it, and soon enough, he will end up with someone who does. You're the jerk. A 33-year-old complaining about a cake? When there is a responsible man prioritizing his bills, providing for his kid, and being an overall awesome guy? Sounds like you had no problem when Buddy was making 6 figures, but now that he's an average Joe, he's below you? Let this man go and sink your claws into the next walking bank account you find. You're the jerk. Either break up and date someone who can afford your tastes, pay for your crap yourself, or be quiet and grateful for what your partner tried to do for you. Those are the options. Instead, you rejected his admittedly very nice meal and the cake he baked for you and made his kid who tried to help make your birthday nice feel like crap. You're 33. Grow up and act like it. Not the jerk. Girl, you deserve so much better. My fiance and I have a clear agreement that if he ever falls on rough times, I'm out the door. You wouldn't stick with an employer who can't afford to treat you right, so why would you stay with a man who can't afford to? I know what I'm worth. If you want a girl like me, 100K followers on Instagram, 60K followers on TikTok, you're going to pay for it. Don't like it? I can replace you in a heartbeat with a man who will treat me like the queen that I am. Like Drake says, know your worth.
Why are some people so disgusting?
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
Some of these stories legit make me upset, and I love it.
Am I the jerk for giving the PS5 my husband bought to my nephew? I'm a 35-year-old woman, and my husband is 37. I discovered the other day he had bought a PS5 as a gift for himself, but the thing is, he used my money to do so without my permission, using a portion of my emergency savings that he had access to, in case of, an emergency. Which I do not believe being able to get your hands on a new video game console classes as. This led to a huge argument, and I took the console away and reboxed it up. I debated on returning it to the shop for the money, but I know my sister has been struggling to find one for my 13-year-old nephew for over a year. So instead, I wrapped it up and took it around to hers and put it under the tree and quietly explained what it was and what had happened. My sister then gave me the money for it. My husband went ballistic, shouting and demanding I go get it back. which I of course refused to do, telling him, as it had been bought with my money, it was my choice what happened to it. He is now sulking and refusing to talk to me and acting like a huge baby. Edit. For anyone curious about our money situation and why I'm so angry, we each put half our salary into a communal family fund for the house, bills, groceries, etc. The other half is ours to play with as we want. My husband always blows through his and never saves a penny. Half of my expendable money goes into savings for emergencies as I'm more realistic. Second edit, stating here because of comments. He refused to pay me back as it was an emergency. Third edit, I've emptied the emergency account that he has access to and put it all in my personal account that he does not have access to, including the money I got from my sister for the PS5. Not the jerk. No idea how any sane person can read this story and think, yep, dude was 100% in the right. On the flip side, I have no idea how anyone can stay with someone so incompetently stupid as OP's husband. I get that certain factors play a role in not just instantly divorcing or dumping someone, divorcing being a hassle, kids, etc. But good lord, learn to value and respect yourself. Someone nearing 40 with no ability to save money, steal money for a game console, and categorically refuse to admit fault or apologize deserves no charity. Seriously though, how do people like OP's husband get people to marry and stay with them? I totally get that some partners flip a switch after marriage and become monsters, but there are daily posts on here of people with 6 months into a relationship describing just massive red flags about their partner and still wondering if they are a jerk or not. We need more education in our lives about loving ourselves and not settling with jerks. If you've been with someone for 7 years and they've been lazy and selfish the whole time, nothing is going to change in the future. Reply, man, what's the deal with all these man boys and their gaming? It's a hobby. Not everyone has to go fishing, hunting, hiking, camping, etc. Reply, I just keep seeing all these threads about men neglecting their wives and families, taking money from savings, and more often than not, it's video game related. I'm not saying men who don't play games aren't guilty of those things too, but it seems like there's an extra degree of immaturity in the stories where the man is a gamer. Reply, and then other gamers always come in to defend them. My marriage was almost ruined over gaming, and I had so many people tell me that I can't handle being with a gamer. All my exes were gamers, and I was with my gamer husband for 5 years before I got fed up with his behavior. He even realized it was out of control and got his crap together. He still has his hobby, and we're both happy. I can't stand the type of gamers who justify ruining people's lives over a hobby. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her gamer husband? Please let us know.
He's not a true gamer unless his diet consists mainly of Mountain Dew and Doritos. For the Alliance.
Am I the jerk for telling my husband that if he wants his spoiled brat of a daughter to come over for Christmas, he can cook? My husband, Rob, and I married later in life, and each have one daughter from a previous relationship. I'm going to refer to my stepdaughter as Maggie. To be 100% honest, I would not have even considered marrying Rob if Maggie had been under 18. She's extremely difficult. I blame Rob and his ex for a lot of it, but some of it seems beyond anyone's control. She's never worked a day in her life. She was never held accountable for being a mean girl in school, and even as an adult, she throws tantrums. I have seen her throw herself to the ground, cry until she can't breathe. Her husband responds by treating her like an actual toddler, tickling, rocking. It's very weird. She's now 35 and has 2 kids, but they're always with the nanny, and she just seems unaware of her privilege. She is unhealthily obsessed with her husband and calls Rob during the day, despite him still working full-time, and demands attention because she just doesn't know what to do with herself when her husband is at work. I'm not trying to be some wicked stepmother, but this woman is annoying. Last Christmas, I made her a homemade sweater and she loved it. She picked the colors and design, and she found out my daughter had the same one in a different color and cried and accused me of wanting to humiliate her. She constantly is smug about what her husband buys her and tries to imply that my daughter is poor, despite my son-in-law making excellent money. When anyone else is getting attention, she bounces around, clings to her husband, or causes some scene to put the attention back on her. In the past, when I asked her to help me in the kitchen, she threw a fit, despite liking to cook, because she didn't want to be in the kitchen with me, my daughter, my sister, and my niece, because she thinks we all talk crap about her, which I think really translates to, she made a fool of herself trying to upstage my daughter at her wedding, and my family witnessed that. Anyway, she normally does Christmas at her house. I don't go because I want to spend Christmas with my daughter and because Maggie is a lot. Maggie isn't hosting this year because of a minor surgery, but she doesn't want to do all that cooking, which is fine. But Rob wants me to host this year and invite both of our daughters, and he cites that my daughter just had a baby and shouldn't have to cook either. I was going to go to her house and cook. I said I don't really feel like spending Christmas with Maggie because of her behavior, and my daughter should relax, which is impossible with Maggie bouncing off the walls and talking a mile a minute. He accused me of just not liking his daughter. I said if he wants to host Maggie and her husband, he can cook. He can't, and I will go to my daughters like planned. He thinks I'm being unfair because it is Christmas and she is his only blood family, and he feels I would be angry if he did the same with my daughter. Edit for all the people asking what Maggie did at the wedding. She wore a very over-the-top dress, which was so beaded and sparkly, even she was uncomfortable at some point due to it being scratchy, and made a joke how my daughter isn't in love, and only like 1% of people can actually experience love, and we aren't deep enough. She threw a fit about that. She was going to pass out because it was hot and demanded food. It was kind of warm, but she has no health issues that should make it so she needs cake that moment or she will get hurt. She complained about the food, complained that my daughter was getting attention, her husband got drunk and was kissing all over her, and she ended the night by loudly announcing that her parents didn't love her enough. Not the jerk. If it were me, I'd go to my daughter's house and cook. Sorry, honey, I have plans because my daughter just had a baby, and I don't want her to have to travel or be around a bunch of people with a newborn. Period. End of story. He would be welcome to either come with me or he could go to his own daughter's house. And if his daughter is so rich, then she can afford to hire someone to cook their Christmas dinner. I'd send a lovely gift with him and a beautiful daughter-in-law card with it so she couldn't say mean things about me. Not that it would stop her, but this is what I would do. Enjoy your Christmas with your daughter and your new grandbaby. Not the jerk. Rob's poor parenting enabled Maggie's unacceptable behavior. Maggie sounds like she is very spoiled and entitled, but she might also have a mental illness that was never addressed. Your response is appropriate. Considering Maggie is a fully grown woman, you don't need to have her in your life. I think you and Rob need to go for counseling, and you should go if he refuses. If this doesn't work out, it's time to consider leaving him. Not the jerk. I absolutely can't believe the amount of "Am I the jerk" posts around the holidays that center around "My husband is upset that I won't cook because of blah blah blah." Then he can cook. Google it. Literally, open your phone or laptop and watch a tutorial. It is absolutely nuts how many guys lose their minds the minute their wifey won't cook for them. Anytime someone acts entitled to someone else's time and effort, I'm inclined to say not the jerk, no matter what the reason is, even if it's super petty, simply because it's so mind-numbingly dumb that these people haven't bothered to learn a basic life skill. Everyone sucks here. Maybe this will be an unpopular opinion, but it sounds like you're both the jerks. There are quite a few little digs in this little story that tells me that you probably aren't 100% the innocent party in all of this. By the way you are describing your interactions to everyone here, I have absolutely no doubt that you and your family talk crap behind her back. She sounds like a petulant child and sounds like she probably needs a good amount of therapy for her issues, but you sound like a judgmental whiner, even though you are implying that you are the reasonable adult in the picture. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Maggie? Please let us know. I'll cut down your hours so you'll be forced to quit. Yes, please. This happened almost 10 years ago. I was teaching IT in a professional school and was getting near 2 years of employment. In my country at the time, once you completed 1 year at a company, you had the right to take 1 month of paid vacations, but the employer could hold it till right before your second mandatory vacation period came along. So the school had no choice but to arrange everything for my leave of absence. Problem was, they had no one to put in my place during said month. When the topic came up, I gladly offered to help them hire someone and even train this person before taking my leave. All would go well if there wasn't some drama getting set up in the background. A few months back, our teaching manager had quit in a dramatic way. She was having a relationship with a student, which was heavily against school's policies. And to make it even worse, the student in question was my daughter. I was against it, but kept quiet because my daughter asked me to and said she was happy. Much later, I found out it was a horrible relationship and blamed myself for not giving voice to my concerns when it was time, but this is a story for another day and probably another sub. So she decided to quit as a way to not get fired once higher-ups found out about the affair. We kept in touch, mostly because of my daughter, but the friendship we once had was affected permanently. Unfortunately, this wasn't the perception of school's managers. Gossip went around about how I wasn't to be trusted because of my connection to the former manager, but none of it reached my ears because I simply never engaged in this kind of talk and simply kept it to myself. The school eventually hired a former teacher to fill the vacant position in the teaching department, and at the time, I had no clue why they had not offered me the job. The new manager was a friend of mine and told me they offered him the job instead of me because higher managers had the habit of listening to the gossip, and that the CEO was actually looking for grounds to legally firing me. According to local labor laws, if he didn't have a valid reason for this, he would have to pay a huge fine. But the new manager told me he was fighting for me. That upset me. I just told him to stop bothering. If the boss tells you again that he wants me gone, do not disagree with him. I did everything they asked me about hiring a substitute, knowing that he would be my permanent replacement, but I was adamant in not giving them any reason to fire me without full compensation. About a week before my leave ended, I called the teaching manager and asked them about my return to work. He asked me to start with a free class. The school offered free classes monthly to attract new students, and that we would have a meeting with the CEO afterwards to arrange everything about my return. I asked him to send me an email with all the details of this class, and he hesitated before complying. The email I got specified a different schedule from what we discussed on the phone. Huh? I had 4 free classes that day before meeting the manager and the CEO. Each one went smoother than the previous. When the time of the meeting came, they still didn't have any reason to fire me. The CEO started citing a bunch of complaints they supposedly received about my behavior while in class for the past 2 years, but did not provide any proof of it. He then started saying how the results of the new teacher were through the roof and that they should have hired him instead of me much sooner. The whole thing was very confrontational and aggressive and clearly designed to provoke some kind of violent response from me. I kept calm and was smiling the whole time. When he saw the strategy didn't pan out, he said he was simply giving my regular classes to the new guy and keeping me with just the free classes, which in his mind would severely cut down my earnings and I would feel forced to quit. Since I had read a lot about labor laws during vacations, cue the malicious compliance. Wait, so I get to keep my current earnings and work 1 day a week? Well, sign me up. Boss, of course you would only be paid for the free classes. Me, so do I have a saying in keeping teaching regular classes? No, as I was saying, the new teacher is really loved by the students, and, well, if dropping the regular classes are not my own choice and I have no way to prevent it, then according to the law, you have to keep paying me exactly the same amount as before, even if, by your own decision, I'll be here just 4 days each month. This isn't how it works. But it is, and you can, of course, disagree. And you can choose to pay me less if you want to, but what you cannot do is fire me with just cause when I sue you because of it. What if I just fire you right now? That would mostly be acceptable. Then you're fired. Thank you very much. So I was fired not only with full severage, but I actually had to go back there a week later to pick up even more money because the guy forgot to give me a mandatory raise issued by the teachers union while I worked there. So if he didn't pay the difference retroactively, he would be sued and probably criminally charged. We ended everything with a firm handshake, and almost 10 years later, I'm back at the same company, now as the teaching manager. Reply: my boss told me early on in my employment he never fires employees. He simply cuts their hours. I told him I wanted about 15 hours per week because I have another job. Well, he saw how competent I am and scheduled me more and more hours. I mentioned it's too many hours, and he told me he's struggling trying to find more employees, so I'll just have to deal with it for the time being. I knew this was untrue. I saw the applications, I saw the interviews. He just didn't want to hire anybody else. My malicious compliance. I started petty arguments with him, started showing up a few minutes late, stopped being friendly with him. Sure enough, he cut my hours. Fortunately, my punishment cut my hours back to exactly how many hours I initially wanted. Reply: a few years ago, I was presented with a choice: a performance improvement plan with goals that were completely unachievable, or to quit with 2 weeks severance. They presented this to me after lunch and offered to let me go home with pay for the rest of the day to think it over. I surprised them by refusing to go home and refusing to quit. I made it clear that I thought the performance improvement plan was unachievable, but since they were only offering 2 options, I was choosing the plan. They let me go 3 days trying to meet the plan goals before they gave in and fired me. They gave me the severance anyway because I signed an agreement not to sue. wouldn't have been worth the expense because they believed they had grounds to fire me for cause. I filed for unemployment. Employer denied. I appealed and won. Not only did I get severance, but 5 months of unemployment and severance. They now have an official record with the state of having tried to wrongfully deny unemployment. When I checked about 6 months later, the manager who tried to pull this didn't work at that company anymore. Am I the jerk for being honest with my ex-husband's girlfriend? I was married for 3 years. We divorced 2.5 years ago. The marriage was bad. I was stupid. I ignored a lot of warning signs because I was naive. I got my son out of it, but I also know that might not have been a great thing for my son. My ex was a widower with kids when we met. He seemed ready, seemed like he wanted to date, but there were signs that I missed or ignored or just was too dumb to do something about. I'm not sure. He talked about his wife all the time, had her photos and their wedding photos everywhere. Everyone loved and adored her, and she was this saint in the family, someone who was perfect in every single way, and nobody would ever be as good as her. His kids were especially unhappy about me, but nobody treated me well when I look back. I was compared to his wife, made to feel like I was trying to steal from her, made to feel like I was just unimportant in general. It all unraveled when I became pregnant, and he revealed to me that he never loved or had wanted to be with me, let alone marry me, and he didn't want our baby. His kids sent me off with a big "forget you," saying my son would never be part of the family, and they were right. Someone must have mentioned me to the new girlfriend because she reached out and asked me to be honest about why we broke up and why he wasn't involved. I told her my story and what had happened. She confessed to me that his kids would taunt her, even the one who was in college, that they made her know she would never be accepted or wanted, and he was pressured to be with her. After talking to her, some of his family found me on Facebook and told me it was not my place to tell her anything, and I ruined their relationship because she left him. They said I should leave them alone since they leave me and my son alone. Are they right? Am I in the wrong here? Not the jerk. You saved this woman from being treated the way you were, and that makes you a hero in my book. Block his family. They don't need to be able to contact you. Reply: I disagree a little. OP didn't save the new girlfriend. The new girlfriend had a reason to gather info, did that, and saved herself. OP was kind enough to be honest, yes, and I'm sure she was. Thank you, OP. That didn't change the new girlfriend's mind though, and OP is not accountable for the fallout in any way. Give my kid your PS5 or you've ruined his Christmas. So the other day, I, 30 male, got lucky and managed to get hold of a PS5, which are like gold dust in the UK at the moment. Work has been ridiculous this year, and my PS4 broke a few months back. To say I'm hyped for it and some holiday downtime is an understatement. The console finally arrived the other day and was left with my neighbor. I knocked on the door, thanked them for taking the parcel, and exchanged some pleasantries. When she casually asked if it was anything nice, I told her it was a PS5. We had the usual small talk, and I went back inside, thinking nothing of it. Later, we had a knock on the door from her husband, who's about 38. He said his wife had mentioned I'd gotten a PS5 and they wanted one for their 7-year-old son. It was all his son wanted this year, and it's been a tough year for his son as he's not been able to see his friends much. So, would I consider selling it to them for what I bought it for? I said I understood, but I really didn't want to sell it as I was looking forward to playing it. That's when things got a bit weird. He huffed a little and said Christmas should be about kids, and I should really consider how hard it's been for them, and offered me an extra £50. I said I wouldn't be selling it for any price. I wasn't looking to make money on it, I just really wanted to play it. He left, but said he hoped I'd reconsider as, "You and I are a bit old for video games anyway," and walked off. End of story, I thought. The next day, he comes over again, this time with his son. He said his son really wanted to see the PS5 he had heard about. The boy then said to me that's what he really wanted for Christmas and hoped Santa would get him one. I replied that hopefully he would, but it's really busy for him this year, so he might have to wait a little longer for it. But if not, I'm sure he'd get something nice instead. Another day passes, and my fiance said they had posted something weird on social media about, there's a neighborhood group, how they had thought 2020 would have made people less selfish and more giving. But they were disappointed in their neighborhood, which had forgotten community spirit, and how people should be more thoughtful towards the kids in the streets, given how much they've all suffered this year. Off the back of it, my fiance asked if I should sell them the console just to keep the peace. Later in the day, they came around again to tell me that I had promised their son he'd be getting a PS5 for Christmas, and now it would be ruined if he didn't get one. She said that I am an adult and should be thinking of kids at Christmas, not acting like one playing video games, and that I was being unbelievably selfish and cruel. He added that he didn't know why we could enjoy Christmas knowing we were horrible people that had ruined a 7-year-old's Christmas. Now, I've also heard from some people on the street that they've been talking crap about us to people, though most neighbors are just staying out of it, but we're definitely getting some daggers from the mums who lunch crew. We live in a super nice neighborhood, but it's firmly middle class, lots of private school kids called Hattie and Sebastian, etc. We're definitely the youngest on the street and the weird childless couple, which I don't think PS5 Gate is helping with. My fiance just wants to sell it to them to end it, but I'm still trying to hold firm. Honestly, I feel like I'm losing my mind at this point.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.